When we are listened to well, we flourish.
When I'm listened to, I am actually able to articulate for myself what it is that's deep within, and the tangle of stuff that's in me is unknotted and unthreaded.
Listening can unlock the key to understanding. So it's a humility in listening. It's a humility in genuflection.
Listening is elemental to developing any of the strengths of character that I think we would all agree are important.
Communication is essential for a society to flourish. If you can't listen, then you don't have conversation. And in the absence of conversation, you don't really have any ability to come to common ground.
We need to bring listening back as a lost art. I think that kind of connection, deep sort of listening connection, is really an important aspect of our flourishing that becomes harder and harder in the modern age.
This project is a first foray into really sitting down and systematically classifying what it looks like to listen well. But that is not an end in itself. So the question is, can we encourage, train, or educate people about how to be better listeners?
One of our goals is to build a protocol of listening that can be implemented worldwide, especially during disagreement, in order to reduce polarization, in order to create a better world. Listening is quite complex. For example, there is the term listening for understanding, and active listening, and high-quality listening, and empathic listening, and supportive listening.
So for us, listening is about the way that we convey our attention, interest, and valuing of others. And it's also the way that we convey that we understand others. Often we forget to listen to those that we love, those that we spend a lot of time with, because we're preoccupied with our own challenges, stressors. So we find in research that taking a moment to really attend to your partner at the end of the day when they're sharing something, whether it's parenting challenge or a big life decision, or even in the moment, an argument, those moments of really stopping and saying, okay, I want to hear what you have to say. I want to listen to you. Stepping back, not interrupting, and really attending. That's a really important way to promote the well-being of our partners and the quality of our connection with our partners. We find in research that children respond well to parents who are listening with attention, and they feel that openness and they want to share more. When we think about the workplace, there's a lot of research that shows that it's very important that we feel heard at work.
Checking in. There was an interesting study that found that checking in is rated by employees as more important than other aspects of the workplace. And checking in is spending a few minutes with a colleague, asking, how are you? How do you feel? Really taking interest for a few minutes a day. We know from our research, when speakers feel really listened to, they report higher positive affect. They report less depression, less anxiety.
We can think about listening as a skill that we build, as a muscle.
Good listening, first of all, includes constant eye contact.
I make an effort to be in the moment with the person that I'm talking to.
Their eyes will not be focused at us most of the time, but every few seconds, the speaker will look back at the listener to see if the listener is still paying attention. And a lot of the nonverbal behavior signals a non-judgmental approach. It's the open body posture and the leaning towards the speaker. avoiding external distractions such as looking at your smartphone or even having your smartphone visible when you listen to someone. These are all very, very important ingredients.
When we think about training good listeners, we like to think about not just the quiet parts, but the parts where we talk. The talking is really important.
Ask good questions. Try to think of questions that will benefit your speaker rather than your curiosity.
You know, I heard you saying this. Was I right in understanding that?
And there is a difference between a how and a why question. Like, how did it happen versus why did it happen? So a why question usually elicits more defensiveness and I need to explain myself, whereas a how question is more explorative in nature.
The great divide in American politics shows no sign of closing.
Wait a minute. No, you got it.
It is a potentially threatening and a scary experience to listen to those who disagree with you. We're asking them to do something that's quite difficult, which is to acknowledge that maybe they weren't right all along. Some of that means those things that my culture taught me, my community, my family taught me, those truths I knew might not be so true after all.
People have an innate need to evaluate what they hear, but a precondition for good listening will be to let your evaluative thoughts go. I've been intrigued by a phenomena called the Boomerang Effect, where people try to change the attitudes of other people by basically arguing with them, and they get the opposite result. The recipient becomes even more extreme. You can look at it in the society level. The polarization, we don't see the situation getting better. We actually are seeing it getting worse. We thought about listening as a remedy to this phenomena, because when people feel really listened to, people become more relaxed or open-minded when they feel that the other person does not judge what they say.
And so when we listen well, in an ideal world, we listen from a place of humility, that is, we don't have all the answers.
When people feel listened to, they become more intellectually humble. We live in an interdependent world, and we need to know how we can listen, not cancel out our biases, but listening beyond our own biases. We want to see the people that received the training and received the skills serve as social agents. So one good listener can have downstream effect, can be contagious for the family, for the workplace, for the community.
So I think a lot more work is needed to know what is the reach of listening. What else do we need to do when we listen? Is listening enough? What we want to see is people behaving towards one another in a different way, making sacrifices in order to do that, giving up some of the benefits maybe that they've had in their life or their comforts. And those are hard things to ask of people.
If we were getting graded on our ability as a culture, at least in the United States, but I think you could argue globally, how good a job are we doing at really listening? I hope we can do better.
We must learn to listen to each other, even if we don't agree with a particular point of view.
The main challenge in our contemporary world is creating the space in which people can listen to each other and know and be known as persons. That is the gift which enables people to thrive and to become the people they're intended to be.
Listening is possibly the most essential part of achieving safe and flourishing societies.
So listening is the foundation that we build on. Without listening, we cannot do it.
This is a very, very important process that society needs. Listening is a medicine without side effects.